we are going to do an activity where we get to plant our own pollinator plants, watch them grow, watch the plant develop, figure out which kind of flower that we plant, and share it in our garden for the other creatures to enjoy. The first thing that we will do is get our seed starting mix. Seed starting mix is great for starting seeds in our pots because it's a little bit fluffier than the soil you would find in our garden, and this allows the root system to expand and grow freely within the pot. I'm going to pour my seed starting mix into a pot, and this is to be able to mix it in with water. So I'm going to take some water here and pour it into the soil mixture. We want our soil to be moist because the seed will need to be moist when we plant it. And we just want to give our seed starting mix a good amount of moisture. We will want the consistency to be like cookie dough or brownie mix, so it's compact and it sticks together. You don't want it too wet where it's dripping of moisture, and you don't want it too dry, kind of somewhere in between. And you just want to give that a good mix so the moisture is evenly spread out. And then we are going to take our pot and fill it with the soil. So you can fill your pot right up to almost the rim. You want to compact it, you want to press it down, but not too firm, but just lightly press down the soil. And then we have our pot ready to go, and next we will plant our seed. To do this, you just take the seed, whatever seed you were given, take a good look at it, kind of observe the different structure it may be, or just the different shapes that you see. And you want to take your finger and create an indent in the center of your pot, not too deep and not too shallow. Just a couple inches or so here, and place your seed right in the hole there. And then you just want to lightly cover it up. And the seed will start to grow with a little bit of moisture. It will start to kind of wake up and come alive, and it'll start searching for the light. So that's good to go. We've also given your classes these little greenhouse kits where you can just place your pot in the tray here. You can place them all together within one tray. And before we put the lid on, we're just going to want to give it a bit more of a water. And while the seed is in its early stages, before it starts to grow its leaves, the best option is to use a mister to water it. We just want to lightly water the surface and make sure it is continually moist. We don't want to let it dry out. We don't want to moisten it too much. And as the plant starts to grow, that's when we'll want to give it a deeper water with a bit more water to allow the roots to reach deeper into the pot and continue to grow. And once all of our pots are planted with the seeds, you'll just want to place them all within this little tray here and then put the lid on. The lid will help to retain the humidity and the moisture, which is very important for when the seed is starting to germinate. We'll just want to make sure that we check on the moisture of the soil consistently every day, at least a couple times, to make sure it doesn't dry out. And once we start to see the seeds germinate, when they start to send out the leaves through the soil, that's when we can start to take the lid off. And again, we want to, just check on the moisture a couple times a day. And when you notice it needs a spray, just give it a spray and it's good to go. So the seed will start to sprout out of the soil and start to grow some leaves. And while it's growing, we just want to observe the different processes and the structures that the plant is starting to grow. It's really cool to watch a plant grow through all of the stages of its life cycle. Alright, so we just want to remember that we're going to be placing all of our pots together with our other classmates. So one important thing to do is to label your pot just by writing your name on the given tag here. We're not sure what plant it's going to grow yet, so we'll just label it with our names. And that way we can tell whose plant is whose. Another thing to remember is that plants need a lot of light to grow. They use the light as a food source to help develop the leaves and the root systems. So we want to place our pots next to a big window with a lot of sunlight, and that's where they will be most happy. When we're looking at our worksheet here, this is all about tracking the changes that the plant will go through as it goes from seed to flower. To start off, we will include in the first column here, you'll see it labeled as seed. And here we can draw the little seed that we have. Ideally, you'll want to do this before you put it in the soil. So just take a look at the structure there. Mine is kind of shaped like a horseshoe, like a little U shape. So I'm just going to draw what my seed looks like. Just like that. And you can even, as a fun experiment, for the first column, or the first row here, take a guess at what your plant might look like. So what do you think the seedling will look like as it emerges out of the soil? Maybe it'll look like this. Who knows? And then we can take a guess at what our flower might look like. What shapes it'll have, what kind of petals. So what do you think your seed flower will look like once we plant it in the garden? And then the last column is for drawing the animals and the insects, maybe the people that visit our plants when they are in the garden. So maybe this will be a bumblebee, or it could be a butterfly, maybe a bird. So what kind of animals do you think will be drawn to this plant in the garden? So those would be our guesses, what we think will happen, and then underneath we can observe what is actually happening. So there's our seed. And as we continue to just observe our plants, we're going to want to water them every day, keep them in the sunlight, and eventually little seeds or leaves will start to emerge out of the soil. And as they emerge, we just want to, again, just see what kind of shape the leaves are. And the leaves will continue to grow, the root system will continue to develop. For a few weeks at least, we will know that the seedling is ready to be transplanted. Eventually it will outgrow the pot, just like we outgrow our clothes. The seedling will become too big for the pot and it will need a bigger soil space to continue to grow and develop. So we will know when the seedling is ready to be transplanted either into a new pot if you're growing it at home, or you could put it outside in a garden by looking at the root structure. You can ask either your teacher or your caregiver to help you with this. You can either cut through the pot here, or you can pull out the whole plant out of the pot and take a look at the root structure. We'll know it's ready to be transplanted when the roots start to grow into the sides, and you'll see a really dense gathering of the roots start to come out of the sides of the soil there. And that's when we want to transplant. We'll have to decide if you want to plant your flower into a pot at home, or you can plant it into a garden space either in your own backyard or your schoolyard. So hopefully we all plant some flowers that will have a nice bloom that we can see, and eventually you'll just want to look at the flower and see what it looks like, see if it's similar to what you thought it would look like, and watch what kind of animals like to feed on it or visit the garden that you planted in. Today we learned about pollinators, why they are important, and why it's so crucial that we protect them in our landscapes and give them new homes to thrive in.